Welcome to The Deep Dive, the show that takes your source material, filters out the noise, and delivers the essential knowledge you need to be truly informed.
Today, we are going deep on one of the most unsettling figures in American history, Edward Theodore Gein.
Right, Ed Gein.
It's a name that, even though he only had 2 confirmed murder victims, he somehow became the blueprint for, well, the entire modern horror genre.
Exactly. And when you dig into the source material, the police reports, Judge Golmar's notes, biographies like Harold Schechter's, the reality is it's far stranger than any movie. We're not here to sensationalize, though. We want to understand the actual documented facts. What happened in Plainfield, Wisconsin, that let this one isolated guy basically define our collective nightmares?
Gein got slapped with a few grim nicknames, didn't he? Edward Theodore Gein, obviously, but also the Butcher of Plainfield.
And the Plainfield Ghoul.
Yeah.
Chillin' stuff.
Yeah. So our mission today really is to piece together the timeline of his psychological breakdown, the forensic facts of what they found, which is just horrifying, and maybe most importantly, the massive cultural footprint he left on everything: film, books, music.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to get Gein, you really have to start at the beginning, the foundations, total isolation, and this crippling obsession with his mother.
So Edward Gein was born August 27, 1906, La Crosse County, Wisconsin. Second son, George and Augusta Gein, both German descent. And the family dynamic, it was hostile, very inward-looking, and just steeped in fear.
And the parents themselves, George, the father, he was abusive, a violent alcoholic, beat the boys regularly. He tried different jobs: carpenter, tanner, firefighter, even owned a grocery for a bit. But he wasn't the main influence here, was he?
No, not at all. The real power, the one who shaped Ed's entire world, was Augusta.
Right.
She was nominally Lutheran, but her religious beliefs were intense, fervent. And she used that faith like a weapon, basically, to control her boys, Ed and his older brother Henry, imposing this really restrictive, terrifying worldview.
And moving to that farm in Plainfield, that 155-acre farm, that was key, wasn't it? The isolation.
Oh, absolutely intentional. Augusta wanted that isolation. She saw the farm as a fortress against the outside world. She actively turned people away, neighbors, kids who might want to play, because she saw everything outside, as a threat, a spiritual danger to her sons.
And her teachings.
Oh.
Sources say she was just relentless about the world being inherently immoral. Drinking was evil, obviously, but her big thing was women.
Yes. This core belief that all women, maybe except herself, were naturally promiscuous, instruments of the devil, evil.
That's an incredible psychological weight to put on a kid. And it wasn't just talk, she drilled it into them.
Natalie. Every single afternoon, she'd read to them from the Bible. But she wasn't picking the feel-good stories. No, she went straight for the heavy stuff. Old Testament death, murder, divine retribution, and the book of Revelation. Lots of revelation.
So it wasn't moral guidance, it was.
It was terror. A daily dose of apocalyptic fear, mixed with this absolute condemnation of everyone outside the family unit, especially women.
So if you're Ed Gein, the shy kid, and you idolize this woman who controls everything, you're trapped, aren't you? Psychologically.
Completely trapped. Think about it. The person he loves most, his mother, is also the source of this worldview that says the world, especially women, is corrupt and demonic.
Right.
So love for him gets tangled up with this obsessive devotion and this deep, deep fear. Any natural interest in the world, any connection, it automatically equals sin, punishment.
It set his whole path, didn't it? He could never separate himself from her.
Exactly. Because if Augusta's the only pure thing, and the outside world, especially women, is filth, then when she's gone, what does he do? He either has to embrace that filth or
try to become the purity she represented, physically.
Which is exactly what the evidence eventually showed he tried to do. And his early personality, it reflects all this pressure. He was super shy, only left the farm for school.
Classmates mentioned weird things, right? Like laughing randomly.
Yeah, like laughing at private jokes, or maybe it was anxiety, possibly even auditory hallucinations. We don't know for sure. But it struck people as odd.
And Augusta actively stopped him from making friends, punished him for it.
She didn't just discourage it, she made it painful. Yet, despite all that, he did okay in school, especially reading.
Which, ironically, gave him the skills later to read those pulp magazines, the ones that fed his darker side.
Precisely.
Okay, so this toxic little world starts to break down a bit in the 1940s. First, the father, George, dies in 1940, heart failure, age 66.
Right, and that meant Ed and Henry had to step up financially. They started doing odd jobs to keep the farm going. Henry worked as a handyman.
And Ed He did a lot of babysitting, which is telling, isn't it? He related better to kids than adults, especially women.
Definitely suggests where his comfort zone was. But the really big break, the crucial one, was Henry's death in 1944. Murky.
Yeah, the sources paint a strange picture. Henry was a bit more independent. He'd started dating someone, a divorced mom, planning to move in with her. And he was worried about Ed's attachment to Augusta.
He was actually speaking out against Augusta, around Ed, telling Ed how unhealthy it was.
And Ed's reaction? Shock. Hurt. It shows how deep that loyalty went, even when Augusta was so destructive.
You can feel the tension rising between the brothers.
Yeah.
Henry's trying to pull away as anchored to Augusta.
And then Henry dies. They were burning marsh vegetation on the property. Firefighters come, put out the brush fire, they leave. Then Ed reports Henry missing, finds the body himself, face down.
Initial ruling. Heart failure, maybe asphyxiation from the smoke. But critically, no autopsy was performed. Just accepted as an accident.
But later accounts, like Schechter's biography, mention something else. Bruises on Henry's head.
Right. That doesn't quite fit the accident narrative. And years later, in '57, the state investigator, Joe Wilimowski, he specifically asked Ed about Henry's death. So law enforcement had their doubts even then.
The implication is huge, isn't it?
No.
Could Ed have killed him? Or maybe just let him die? Because Henry was the one threatening that intense bond with Augusta.
George Arndt, who analyzed the case, he called it the potential Cain and Abel aspect. It's possible, even likely, he thought. Whether Ed actively killed him or just failed to help him when he was injured or overcome, we don't have proof.
But the result is the same. The one voice questioning Augusta's control, gone, leaving Ed completely alone with her and his obsession.
And that obsession just ramped up. After Henry died, Augusta had 2 paralyzing strokes. Ed became her sole caretaker for that next year. Utterly devoted.
And she still held that power, even paralyzed. There's that story, the harlot incident.
Oh, yeah. Gein told this story himself. 1945, they go to a neighbor's, Smith, to buy straw. They see Smith beating his dog viciously. But Augusta, her rage wasn't about the dog. It was entirely focused on the fact that Smith had an unmarried woman living with him. She just exploded, calling her Smith's harlot. The animal cruelty barely registered next to the sin of female sexuality.
That says everything about the moral compass Ed inherited. It was all about Augusta's condemnation. So when she finally died, December 1945, age 67, Ed was completely lost.
Schechter put it perfectly. Lost his only friend and one true love. And he was absolutely alone in the world, just devastated.
So the next period, 45 to 57, those are the really isolated years. The descent begins.
He kept the farm, got a small government subsidy, did odd jobs, but his focus turned inward. Completely. The farm became like a physical manifestation of his grief.
He sealed off his mother's rooms, didn't he? The upstairs, the parlor, the living room, boarded them up.
Like a shrine. Kept them pristine, untouched, frozen in time. Meanwhile, the rest of the house where he lived, it just fell into squalor, absolute filth. He lived in one tiny room next to the kitchen.
And his reading habits changed too, right?
He got deep into pulp magazines, adventure stories, but specifically ones about cannibals, Nazi atrocities. That's where he read about Ilse Koch.
Ah, the one accused of making things from prisoner skin.
Exactly. The fascination with human remains, with using them, it was starting to form.
And it didn't stay theoretical for long. 1947, the grave robbing starts.
Yeah, he confessed this later. Between 47 and 52, he claimed he made maybe 40 trips out to local graveyards at night, 3 different cemeteries.
He said he was in a daze-like state.
That's how he described it. Driving out in a daze, sometimes snapping out of it at the cemetery as going home. But other times, he went through with it.
And his targets were specific.
Very specific. Recently buried middle-aged women he thought looked like his mother.
He admitted to robbing 9 graves, and he actually led the police to them later.
His stated reason was chillingly simple. He'd take the bodies home, skin them, tan the hides, to make things. Bizarre items. Clothing, paraphernalia.
It was his way of getting closer to her, replicating her.
Trying to physically reclaim the mother he'd lost.
Yeah.
And the police did verify the grave robbing. Alan Wilimowski from the State Crime Lab, they dug up 3 graves, Gein pointed out.
And the soil there, Plainfield sandy soil, made it easier, right? Caskets weren't buried that deep.
Right, maybe only 2 feet down, often in wooden boxes, not like digging through heavy clay. And the findings were conclusive. 1 grave, casket empty. Another, empty, but they found a few bones and Gein's own crowbar inside.
Okay.
The 3rd one, most of the body was gone. So his story checked out, physically.
He claimed 9, but made 40 trips. Suggests the compulsion was strong, even if he didn't always succeed.
Definitely. And he also made this weird claim about sometimes returning things, like rings or even some body parts, back to the graves later. It's just bizarre.
Okay, so 5 years of grave robbing,
Yeah.
desecrating the dead, and then he escalates. He starts killing the living.
Right. The investigation in 57, the one that finally caught him, it also connected him back to an earlier murder.
Mary Hogan, 1954.
Yeah, December 8, 1954. She was 51, owned a local tavern, disappeared from the bar. Gein admitted later he shot her, but he claimed he blacked out, couldn't remember the details. Her head was eventually found in his house.
But the case that blew it all open was Bernice Worden.
Bernice Worden, 58 years old, owned the hardware store in Plainfield. She vanished on November 16, 1957, Saturday morning.
And the clue was antifreeze.
A sales slip. Last transaction recorded was for a gallon of antifreeze. Gein was apparently going to come back later to pick it up.
And her son, Frank Worden, he was a deputy sheriff.
Yes. He got to the store later that day, around 5 p.m., found the cash register open, blood stains on the floor. He saw that antifreeze slip, knew Gein was supposed to be the last customer, and, well, Gein was known locally as Odd. He became the prime suspect almost immediately.
So they arrested Gein that same evening.
Yep, picked him up at a grocery store nearby, and the Washoe County Sheriff's Department got a search warrant for the Gein farm right away. What they found there, I mean, that's the stuff of nightmares. That's what created the legend.
Yeah. Let's go through the forensic facts, because the details are just staggering. Bernice Worden's body.
They found her in a shed on the property. A deputy discovered her. She was decapitated, hung upside down by ropes on her ankles, wrists tied to a crossbar.
Like dressing a deer.
That was the description used, yes. Dressed out like a deer. She'd been shot with a .22 rifle. The mutilations, the evisceration, all happened after death.
And the house itself, that confirmed the grave-robbing confessions, but revealed something even more disturbing, the why.
Exactly. Gein explained it himself later. Soon after his mother died, he started this project. To create a woman suit, his words, so he could, quote, become his mother, to literally crawl into her skin.
It wasn't about trophies then, was it? It was about transformation, becoming Augusta.
That seems to be the core pathology. And he was adamant it wasn't sexual. He specifically denied any sexual contact with the bodies. His reason.
They smelled too bad.
Right. Which points to an obsession based purely on identity, on maternal fusion, not lust.
So the inventory. What the state crime lab found. Documented by investigator Wilimowski, Judge Golmar. It's just a list of horrors.
It really is. Let's try and break it down. First, just household items, furnishings.
Okay.
They found a wastebasket covered in human skin, several chairs upholstered with human skin, bowls made from human skulls, top sawn off, and a lampshade made from the skin of a human face.
Just integrating human remains into everyday objects. The level of disconnect is unimaginable.
Then there was the clothing, the things directly linked to that woman suit idea.
Right.
A corset made from a female torso, skin from the shoulders down to the waist. Leggings made from the skin of human legs.
And the masks?
Several masks, yes.
Yeah.
Made from the skin of female heads, including Mary Hogan's actual face, found stuffed in a paper bag.
Yeah.
These weren't for hiding his identity. They were for assuming another one, his mother's.
And the other, trophies.
Gruesome. Human skulls mounted on his dead posts.
On the bedpost.
Yeah. More female skulls, some with the top sawn off, maybe for bowls like the others. That infamous belt made from human nipples.
I can't even.
And then evidence of the scale of the grave robbing. A shoebox containing 9 vulvas. Forensic analysis suggested 2 of those might have come from teenage girls, around 15. So not just middle-aged women.
And Bernice Worden, her head, her heart.
Her head was found separate, in a burlap sack. Her heart was in a plastic bag, found near his potbelly stove.
They photographed everything, right, at the crime lab?
Meticulously. Documented it all. And then the official report says the items were decently disposed of, which feels like such an understatement for erasing that level of horror.
There's that weird story, too, about the shrunken heads.
Oh, right. A local teenager. His parents knew Gein. He'd been in the house and saw these things. Gein told him they were shrunken heads, relics from a cousin who served in the Philippines in World War II.
But they weren't.
No. Police figured it out quickly. They were human facial skins, the masks, cured and preserved. It just shows how he tried to normalize the horror, give it this weird, exotic explanation that people initially kind of accepted because he just seemed like the local oddball.
After the arrest, they must have looked at him for other missing persons cases. Wisconsin had a few unsolved ones back then.
They did. He was questioned extensively. People wondered about Georgia. Jean Weckler, she was 8, vanished in 47. Evelyn Grace Hartley, 14, disappeared while babysitting in 53. Even some missing men, a neighbor, James Walsh, 2 hunters, Travis and Burgess.
But he wasn't linked to those.
No. This is where the psychiatric profile seems to hold up. Lie detector tests, even with the later questions about how they were obtained, they apparently clear him of those other cases. And the psychiatrist concluded his violence, his specific pathology, was really laser-focused.
On women who looked like his mother.
Exactly. Mary Hogan, Bernice Worden, they fit that profile. The grave-robbing targets mostly fit. The young girls, the men. They didn't fit his specific psychological need to attack that maternal image.
So with crimes this bizarre, the legal process must have been complicated.
Oh, incredibly. He was arraigned just days after the arrest, November 57, pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. And the diagnosis came back quickly, schizophrenia.
Which meant he couldn't stand trial initially.
Correct. He was ruled mentally incompetent, sent to the Central State Hospital for the criminally insane. And he stayed there for, well, over a decade.
10 years. Wow.
It wasn't until 1968, 11 years after the murders, that doctors finally decided he was, quote, mentally able to confer with counsel and participate in his defense. So the trial finally started, November 7th, 1968.
And it was short, right? Only a week.
Very short. Judge Robert H. Golmar presiding. And crucially, no jury.
Why no jury?
The defense requested it. They argued, probably correctly, that given the insane media coverage and the sheer horror of the facts, finding an impartial jury anywhere in Wisconsin would be impossible.
Makes sense. What was the defense strategy for Worden's murder?
They went with accidental discharge. Gein claimed he was just looking at the rifle in her store, went off by accident. Claimed he blacked out after that, didn't remember anything until he was back home.
Did the judge buy it?
Not for the guilt phase. Judge Golmar delivered the verdict fast, November 14th. Guilty of first-degree murder. But then the trial immediately shifted to the sanity phase.
Okay.
After hearing from psychiatrists for both sides, Golmar made his final ruling. Gein was indeed not guilty by reason of insanity, so he was sent back to psychiatric institutions for life.
And he was only tried for Worden's murder, technically, not Mary Hogan's.
That's right. He confessed to killing Hogan, but the state decided not to prosecute that separately. It would have been expensive, and he was already going to be locked up forever anyway. So legally, it was just the one conviction tempered by insanity.
But there was that whole issue with the initial confession, wasn't there? Sheriff Schley.
Yes, a major legal shadow. Sheriff Arch Schley, who arrested Gein, apparently got rough during the interrogation. Reports say he banged Gein's head and face into a brick wall.
So the confession was coerced.
Pretty clearly, which meant that an initial confession, detailing everything, was ruled inadmissible, couldn't be used in court. A big problem for the prosecution, although the mountain of physical evidence from the farm was overwhelming anyway.
And Sheriff Schley, it affected him badly, didn't it?
Tragically, yes. He died of heart failure in 1968, right before the trial ended. Only 43. People close to him said he was just deeply traumatized, not just by what he saw at the farm, the sheer horror, but also by the stress and fear of having to testify about assaulting Gein.
Wow. So while Gein is locked up, what happens to the farm, the House of Horrors?
Well, public fascination didn't stop. The property, 195 acres plus the house, was valued at about $4,700 back then, maybe $51,000 today. It was actually scheduled to be auctioned off.
And people were worried it would become some kind of dark tourist trap.
Exactly. There were rumors flying around. But before the auction could happen,
Fire.
March 20, 1958, the house burned to the ground. Arson was strongly suspected, but they never officially determined the cause.
And the fire chief then was Frank Worden, Bernice's son.
Yes, which adds another layer of intrigue. Maybe he didn't rush to put out the fire, destroying the place where his mother was mutilated. We don't know, but it's understandable if he didn't feel any urgency.
What did Gein say when he heard the house burn down?
His reaction was apparently just flat, indifferent. He just said, just as well. Like the physical place didn't matter to him anymore once he was removed from it.
But the commercialization, that started immediately, right, with his car?
Astonishingly fast. The house was gone, but his car, the black 1937 Ford he used to haul bodies, it was still around. It was sold at public auction, fetched $760, about $8,300 today.
Who bought a murder car?
A carnival sideshow operator.
Donnie Gibbons.
He took the car on tour, charged people 25 cents to come and look at the ghoul car.
Unbelievable, turning tragedy into a roadside attraction almost instantly.
It shows how quickly that leap happened. From crime scene to spectacle.
And Gein himself, he just lived out his life in institutions.
Pretty much. He died July 26, 1984, at the Mendota Mental Health Institute, respiratory failure linked to lung cancer. He was 77,
Where is he buried?
back in Plainfield Cemetery. But you won't find his grave easily. The headstone kept getting vandalized, people chipping off pieces as souvenirs. Then it was stolen completely in 2000.
Mm.
Did they ever get it back? Yeah, it was recovered. But they decided not to put it back. It's apparently kept in storage somewhere. So his actual grave remains unmarked, permanently obscured.
So the facts are grim. 2 murders, grave robbing, making things out of skin. But the impact. It was way out of proportion to the body count, wasn't it? Gein basically redefined the American boogeyman.
He really did. It was the specific nature of the crimes, the psychological depth, the maternal obsession, the sheer weirdness. That's what captured the imagination and, frankly, the horror.
And it hit popular culture almost immediately. Robert Bloch's novel, Psycho, came out in 1959, just 2 years after Gein's arrest.
Heavily fictionalized, of course, but the core was there. The isolated man, obsessed with his mother, living in that creepy, decaying house.
Just like Gein's farmhouse.
Exactly. And then Hitchcock's film in 1960 just cemented that image in everyone's mind. Norman Bates became the face of that kind of killer.
But Gein's influence goes way beyond Psycho, right?
Oh, absolutely. He's the template, direct or indirect, for a whole lineage of fictional monsters. Leatherface, from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in '74.
Skin mask.
The skin mask, the house full of remains, that's pure Gein. And Buffalo Bill in The Silence of the Lambs.
Making the woman suit.
Literally taking Gein's stated motivation and building a character around it. Even more recently, you see echoes. Dr. Oliver Threads in an American Horror Story, Asylum, with the lampshades and masks.
It just keeps coming back. There's that new Netflix series coming up, right? Monster. The Ed Gein story.
Announced for October 2025, yeah. It just proves this story, this specific pathology, still has a hold on us. Culture keeps recycling it.
And it wasn't just movies. Music, too.
Definitely bled into music, especially heavier stuff. Tad, the grunge band, had that song Nipple Belt back in '89.
Wow, direct reference.
Very direct. Slayer's Dead Skin Mask in 1990 is explicitly about Gein. And Blind Melon, Shannon Hoon, confirmed their song Skinned was about him too, trying to imagine that mindset.
And even back at the time, there was that weird phenomenon, the Geiners.
Yeah, the sources mention this. Almost immediately after the news broke, this wave of dark humor, really morbid jokes about the case started spreading. They called them Geiners.
It's like people had to process the shock somehow, even if it was through really dark comedy.
It suggests maybe the public was already sort of primed to consume this kind of horror, almost pathologically itself.
There's also that misattributed quote, right? Shows how Gein became a symbol.
Oh yeah, in American Psycho, the novel, Patrick Bateman quotes someone, attributes it to Gein, saying something like he wanted to take her out or wonder what her head would look like on a stick.
But Gein didn't say that.
No, that was actually Edmund Kemper, another serial killer. But the fact that the author pinned it on Gein shows that his name had just become shorthand for the ultimate undisturbed misogynistic killing in the cultural mind, even if the specific detail was wrong.
So what is it about Gein? Why him?
I think it's that combination. The intense isolation of the farm, mirroring the psychological isolation. The decaying house as a metaphor for the decaying mind. The mother obsession. It provided this perfect, ready-made template for a new kind of horror villain. Not a vampire or a ghost, but a deeply damaged person.
Yeah.
Right next door, potentially.
Yeah, the horror became internal psychological.
Exactly. And that small town story just resonated outwards, immediately getting adapted, commercialized, reflecting this sort of budding fascination America had with its own opposing thought.
So when you really boil it down, the horror of Ed Gein wasn't just the 2 murders. It was that profound violation of boundaries between living and dead, between self and other, all driven by this crippling need to merge with his dead mother.
He wasn't just killing people. He was trying to consume and literally wear his obsession, his lost love. It's profoundly disturbing on a primal level.
And the way society reacted almost instantly. The auctioning of the car, the Geiners' humor, the quick fictionalizations, it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It really does. It suggests we were maybe a little too ready, too eager to turn this real-life monster into entertainment.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to consider. When faced with something truly horrific, like the Gein case, does that immediate public fascination actually help us understand the roots of it all, the isolation, the psychology? Or does the speed of that cultural absorption just flatten it, turn profound tragedy and deep mental illness into something easily packaged and sold back to us?
Something to definitely mull over, especially as we continue to see his legacy play out on our screens.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the life, the crimes and the long shadow of Edward Theodore Gein.